Just getting the YouTube live stream up and running. Got some student work to take a look at. It's always nice to see new work that I haven't seen yet. Actually, I guess I shouldn't say that because I have seen it. It's just been a while since I saw the first iterations of this. It looks like looks like we're just getting a little hiccup on the encoder here. Gonna make sure YouTube is properly functioning today. Properly functioning. We had a bit of a hiccup yesterday. So looks like YouTube has fired that we are live. That's good. Love that. Let's see what we got for audio. Make sure that and we do have audio, so that's nice. That's nice. I always have to run through the checks. So if you're watching the recording of this, just understand that I'm attempting to not take this off a ledge, which is sometimes hard for me to do. All right, so being that we've got YouTube up and running properly, I'm going to flip my screens around just a second so that we can, because there is some particular information I want to make sure I'm showing, and I'm just going to come in here to CouchBot, make sure that the Discord community is aware before I take off out of the station here. Yesterday was very code heavy, and today is going to be interface heavy, and it does look like, yes, it does look like CouchBot has fired. That's good. That's good. That's what we like. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here. New Pragmatics. Time for the feedback loop. So good to have you back. Specifically, good to have Eddie back. Eddie has been working on his interface form project for a while, and he's got some stuff to share with us today. And I wanted to share some resources as well, as you may be working through trying to figure out, hey, how do I do this particular exercise? And we're going to take a look at Eddie's work. It's kind of interesting. Eddie, Eddie has this habit. There's a minimum threshold. Like you can come into the form exercise and basically just kind of move the form fields around and be done. Or you can go crazy and really get into the interface design, as I believe you'll see that Eddie has. Now, one of the things I'll point out is just because you go over the top, that doesn't mean that it's just a slam dunk all the way around. There are principles that we need to be keeping in mind, even though the main thrust of this exercise is, all right, we're doing form design. Yes, I get that, but also we are remembering spacing. We're remembering typography, we're remembering color, we're remembering accessibility. There's a lot of things that we've learned along the way as you get to this particular area of the interface program. So I'm going to share my screen, and let's go ahead and get this underway. All right, so here we are, ye old form exercise, and as we zoom up here, you'll see this is form refinement. And Eddie has been given this event registration form, and it's a workshop, and you've got all these fields, and this is not unlike any number of actually this exercise is based off of a conference workshop sign up form that I saw, and I was like, OMG, that's a lot of crazy fields, and they're all just kind of crammed together, and how could we make this better? Obviously, there's a lot of ways to make it better. Every student will present something different. Eddie is by far the person who has taken this the furthest. And I do have some questions. But let's go ahead and take a look at what Eddie's got. So as we zoom on over, and I'm gonna zoom in here so that we can try to figure out why. There we go. We're going to zoom in here so we can really see what we've got here for Eddie. Um, and actually, you know, I could come through and I could put this in prototype mode, which and you know what? Maybe I will. Maybe I will. Let's turn our controls back on and let's just see what we get if we put this in prototype mode. Should work fine for page 1. Okay, so this is in prototype mode, and yeah, it's just dragging a little bit. Okay, come on, Figma, do your thing. Could be that I've just got too many files open for Figma. Anyway, so we scroll. You can see that's the form. It's really long. Some of the things that we don't like here is the fact that, hey, the submit button is off the screen. It's overwhelming. There's just, where the hell do I start here? So if we come in here to Eddie's registration form, he simplified it down to basically first name, last name, email address. Now I could come through and sign up with one of these services, and then there's the next button. I'm not sure what is happening over here, Eddie. It's like there's a dark car over there. It might be like a Tesla or something. I'm not sure what the angle is there. Is that something that I could replace? If like, I'm guessing this would be like a white label form solution, is what you're kind of presenting back to me. But there's a car over there. This is for like a workshop. Maybe the workshop is on cars. Don't know. I'm mostly focused on, does this work? So I could, you know, Eddie's added the ability to switch languages here, which is nice. You know, I think the sign up with, what I like here is that you've got this here, and you've taken time to think about you've taken time to think about how this would fit in very nicely. But I do wonder if like we shouldn't or we shouldn't like remove sign up with. You've said it 3 times here. You know, it's like you know, Apple, Google, Facebook. You could just have one label that says or sign up with ... Apple, Google, Facebook. You know, there's ways to streamline that. The other thing to look at here, and I'm gonna come over here just to take a peek at this. Let's see here. Okay, so this is 10 point or 10 pixel in size, and that's typically too small. The minimum that we typically would go for would be 12. And you're probably wondering, like, okay, Chris, you know, where would I find that out at? That's where I invite you to go back to the digital design anatomy items that are right over here. Let's go over here to New Pragmatic real fast. So when we look at type specimen, no, that's Fonzo's. Oh, public. Yeah, here we go. Sorry. Digital design anatomy. If we go into here, this is where you're going to find out all about sizes. So if we come in here and we start saying parts or type sizes, that's where you'll find that information for type sizes. But also I would point out that right over here, this is the developer.samsung.com site. These are the design guidelines, and if you scroll on down here, you'll see, and I'm going to zoom in because they've made it really small. It's almost like it's a PDF that they've uploaded online because it's kind of grainy, but it says 12 SP. SP is for scalable pixel. Okay, just in your mind say that's 12 pixels. Okay, but that is for the line title. That's the smallest size that they're going to show. It's 12. Okay, you've gone 10. All right, so you've gone below the lowest of the thresholds for Samsung. You may be asking, well, what does Apple do? Well, here we go. Apple Human Interface. Yep, and then we're going to go right down to the typography. You can see that I come to this a lot. There is a guide down here for sizes, and the absolute smallest on Apple size, they say points. Points is very close to pixels. I don't want you getting too worried about that. But 11. Okay? So 11 is the smallest of the small for Apple. 12 is the smallest of the small for Samsung. You're at 10. Just something to keep in mind. Okay? So the threat, you're close, but I would go up. I would probably go 12. Because this is caption 2. Like, so this is like a really small caption. Body copy on Apple, 17. Headlines are also 17. So, but I do believe, like, when you get into, like, 13 would be fine. Footnote. Subhead, 15. I don't think you really want subhead though. But I think you're down here in this range. So I would just keep it at that. And as you can see, like, when we get into accessibility, like, as people go through their phone and they begin to level that typography up in size, like they go to their accessibility settings, they go, I want it all the way. That caption that was 11 at the largest size is now 40. Okay, so this is how we need to think about our design experiences. Is that not only is 10 really small, and like we should have it's minimum of 11, but we should also be thinking, like, all right, I also need to be aware that when people adjust these sizes, it's going to change everything. And that there are things that we'll do when it comes to code that will make this infinitely scalable. All right, so don't worry about that. At some point, somebody blows the size up on their computer or their phone. Yeah, this is going to be 40 and it's going to be massive. Okay, but your form is going to get bigger because we're going to write it the right way. Okay, so don't sweat that part. It's like, oh, it's going to be huge. No, the form will grow. The form will grow. But I will show you how to do that properly when we get to that section. So maybe there's some streamlining here. This should be larger. The rest of it's fine though. I am a little. I see like the shifter here. It's almost like a gear shift thing here, but then I see 01 intro over here. This is a little disconnected. I do wish that I could get that more connected, but that's me ticky tack. All right, let's keep going. So here, you've got the powered by Google. I'm not necessarily certain that has to be here in the drop down. If it does, you need to give yourself more space for it. But everything else here is fine. I do see the separator between the phone number and the city. You could also just do that with space. Okay, you don't necessarily need the line there, but I understand why it's there. You're motoring through this. This is contact. The interesting thing here is when you get to 3, how do you identify the progression? Because now you're here at 3, and it's like, okay, so are these the next 2 or are those the next 2? If I haven't been paying attention, I don't necessarily know what this thing is doing over here to the right. Again, 12 on those, and I think the drop down is fine. Card number, please. So you're going with an alert here. Please enter a valid card number. That makes sense. Billing address is the same. Review and payment, I don't think the line here is necessary. I do think that this is pretty tight on the button, the line height. If I come back over and look at that in particular, I think I saw that somewhere else actually. Yeah, it's on this screen. So on this screen, this line height, it's flirting with disaster. Like if I had a G here, yeah, that it's going to collide, and there's no real reason to have it that tight anyway. So I would say like 110, because you're in percentages here. So if you're doing the math on that, it's 110 of 15 pixels, so that's like 16.5 or something. Um, so that's fine. We also want to I want to work with you on getting you into auto layout, because the size of that button should have automatically just switched as well. While we're here, you've got a, oh, and I did notice, like, now it's all red, which is fine. I do think that, like, as you're coming through, like, you could gray the ones out that have been covered. That would be probably a good idea. Right now, like, this card is centered, but yet you've got, like, the indentation here. I'm not really sure that you really need the indentation. Indentions are a product of print design where you had a lot of text in a little space and you needed to know where the next paragraph was. Here, they're not necessary. So I would get rid of them. And I would do one of two things. I would either left align the things that are in this box, or I would center the things in this box, including, like, this information here, which goes counter anything I would normally say. But this is such a small bit of text that I think it's okay. I just want to get this consistent, and right now, and I could go either way. I'm just looking for consistency. So I would either go, I'm going to move the icon over here, and maybe I put a little check mark with it or something. I'm going to move the little webinar begins on over here, or I'm going to center it. And I would do the same thing here. The line, again, I think is unnecessary. I think you could adjust the line height here on the buttons. But otherwise, this is really ambitious, and I want to call it out for what it is. You didn't have to do this, and yeah, I appreciate the fact that you've given me feedback here. Also on the line work here, I'm not sure you need that line work there. I think spacing, and this is something I'm going to come back to a lot. You can do a lot with space that eliminates the need for lines. All right. Here it's not like if you're going to use the lines, I would inject more space there. But if you don't want to use the lines, it would be fine just as it is. But I think if you're wanting to identify, like, this information is separate from the rest, I would just insert space there. But either way, overall it's pretty good. It's really ambitious though, and that's the thing that I want to point out for everybody else. Like, a lot of people are coming through here, and you're going through and you're saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to break this up, and I'm going to break this form up, and it's the same form fields that have just been slightly rearranged, and now, and the other thing I'll point out is Eddie has used the placeholder, like first name, last name, but it's pretty clear when I type into this, like, the placeholder is going to do this little bounce up to where it's still there. As long as that's still present, I don't mind this approach. The thing that I hate is when we are working through and I begin typing into the company employer field here, and that goes away. I always want to know what that field is. So if you begin typing, there needs to be some sort of animation that moves that up so that we can still see what the field is. And this is the only other spot, like, it says Eddie Smith 3. Shouldn't just like you've got card number here, shouldn't that still be present? Just my thoughts. Because in none of these do we see, like, you actually finish it. So I'm wondering, now that I've seen it finished here, is that going away? Like, because I would like to keep that field still there. All right. So that's that, and same thing here on the line height. And then there's that. So this is like a great first cut, okay? It's really ambitious. I think there are small little things, typography size, line height, some spacing questions, line usage, text alignment, like all these little tweaks. And I want to emphasize the word tweaks, all right? Because I was talking like the shifter thing that you did. You didn't have to do that, all right? You decided, hey, I'm going to go run in this direction. That's great. I love seeing the ambition. When you're going to put that ambition out there, though, I'm going to respond to that and like say, okay, great, that's there now. Let's do this one other thing, okay? Because I want, you like any of my students, I want you to always be able to push it that one extra gear forward. It's one of the things I think you get here that you don't get somewhere else. So let's come back over here. Let's go to part 2. Part 2 is less important from the visual scale. It's more about what do we need to do these things: create an account, book a plane ticket, update a credit card, subscribe to a newsletter. And I think that you've done a good job overall going through and identifying the forms that are necessary. And this is something where I've had a lot of people ask, like, well, how would I know that? How would I know what's needed to create an account? Well, the question is, you've got to ask yourself, okay, when I last time I created an account, what did they ask for? Are you paying attention to the internet as you are working with it? And a lot of people aren't. That's why I stop you and ask these questions. For these are very common things. You can change plane ticket to some other thing, book in anything, and aside from that origination, destination, departure date, and arrival date, like it could be pick a seat, could be pick a delivery date, and now tell me where you are, tell me how you're paying, and confirm. Like booking, like don't think about so much of plane ticket, but just booking. Create a new account, update a credit card, and I like the fact that you've got that edit button there, because that edit button is required. I'm updating the credit card. I'm not entering a credit card number. I'm not reviewing it. I'm updating. And then subscribe to a newsletter. Super simple. Email, subscribe. All right, so let's look at this next bit. Oh, sorry. Figma, come on. Oh. It would help if I hit the right keys. It would help. All right, so Eddie has gone a little cray here. What's funny, Eddie, is you're literally showing me the prototyping flow. All right, you're saying, hey, create an account. All right, I'm gonna click here. Sign up with email. All right, I'm gonna click here. Got it. That is where, and Eddie's making these little lines because we haven't shown Eddie the magic of prototyping yet. So we'll just take this, click right over here, boop, come down here. Now I don't know if maybe I select the whole thing, maybe I have to hit that specifically, and then that brings me up. Hey, look at that, it's the same line, but now it's functional. The same line, but now it's functional. And you're going to get into all that in the next exercise, all right? Or I think it might be 2 exercises after this, but regardless, it's coming. It'll get there, all right? But I'll just leave that there for right now. Let's take a look at the design here, though. Username, password, that's a little off. I'm not sure if that's just a font issue or not. Yeah, not sure what's going on there. Lottie Dottie, come join the party, sign in. So this is I'm not sure how you came up with the naming convention for this, but or the branding. Like I love the fact that you're kind of running with it. Remember me, log in. Login looks like it's just slightly out of alignment. Like, and this is something where if you were using auto layout, it would just like be right in the center. Don't have an account. Create an account. Okay. Eddie, first name. Something's up with these fields. Maybe Google Sans is struggling because it's it should be just over a bit. One thing I'll say about these is if anybody has a relatively long name, you're possibly going to run into issues. So that might be a situation where you've got to stack it, or you've got to come in and make these a little smaller. What size is this? That's 16, so that's about where I'd want it. So maybe, you know, it could be a situation where you stack it. I'd rather not. But you have in this particular instance, you have set yourself up for it's kind of interesting. You've taken up this space here, and I appreciate the fact that you've like told me how many steps it is, but this is there's no form entry going on here. You've just got to go to your email and hit the confirmation link, which I like the idea that you've taken it and said, hey, what are the actual steps? It's not just the form fields. There's something that happens, and you've decided to design the entire flow. Love that. That's great. Yeah, so this is overall really nice. Don't have a lot to add. A little spacing issues there on the form fields themselves, like this. But aside from that, this is really neat. So now we've got Night Owl, and Night Owl, so you've gone through, and I'm gonna guess, what are we doing on the spacing here, or on the type sizes here? So that's 12. Okay, so you actually have gone up, and you've addressed what I thought was my big concern earlier. 14. Okay, so like this may be a situation where you're learning as you go. Like you looked back on those first ones, you're like, maybe that's a little small. So you're already making those adjustments. And I like the fact that, okay, so I got passenger details. I think I would have a bit more space here between. I would just like maybe up and over, maybe have this align to the side. Because right now it's kind of floating in the middle. So I think I would have the circle for like contact info. I'd just like get that spacing just a little more precise. If you use your guides to check out like where it should be, that's have this tuck in, like the circle touch those edges. It's just better. How would you like to pay? Again, spacing. Samsung Pay. I'm guessing you're utilizing your experience of Samsung here, and then confirmation. Overall, this is really clean. One thing that I would pretty much always do is I would always place like the completion button or whatever is saying that I'm done. I would always have that as close to the bottom on screen as I could. I don't want to make people move. I want consistency, and like when you think about, where do I put my fingerprint, or where do I consistent, like when you have continue here, I would make things just line up all the way through if possible. Okay, there's going to be situations where that doesn't work out. Okay, so here we've got so this is your I'm going to edit my account settings, and one challenge here is this was no lines. All right, so no lines. What I'm really looking for here is to come through and say, all right, well, I'm just gonna turn that stroke off. And maybe your background is darker. Maybe that would help. But that's immediately better. I would go for lining these items up. So like those buttons, I'd want to have in alignment. Also, I've got to wonder, like, when I go into this edit function, do I need this bottom tab bar? Should that even be a thing until I finish that function? I don't want to be in the middle of updating my card and then accidentally hit the home and then exit out of that. So just something to consider there. Spacing wise, like that's really tight. I would like to give this more room to breathe. I understand you're probably also trying to get everything on the same page, or on the same screen, but it's a bit, and there's like small alignment issues, like that's the center. Maybe it was already there. Something is off. Let's Yeah, maybe that box is just slightly off. Um, but I would also look out. You're working with very perfect data here. It's like, oh, it fits just so, and I would come through and say, okay, I can't anticipate that everybody's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 Crestview Lane, so you're just going to have to go wide with that. And this is where you've got to ask the question of, okay, I'm editing my credit card information, and this is my billing information. Also, while we're here, yep, 10, 10, 10. Okay, we've had that conversation. 10, 10, 10. So this needs to come up in size. It's good to see you, Eddie. It's good to see it. But Eddie Smith is 34. Like, here's a question. What happens if my name is Federic Dominguez? Like, is it gonna kick over to 2 lines? I would take this down in size. That's 15. It's so funny that looks so much larger, but it's because this is in 10. So it's like it is a third larger. But I do think that aside from just the line work, there's some spacing concerns. The data in working with imperfect data, working with variable data that's going to change. Getting comfortable with the fact that, hey, I've got a design for something longer than my name, longer than a simple address that I might be around the corner. I've got a design for, think back to the exercises that we looked at with design information, where it was like Geyer Springs Road with 5 digits, and then it was Arkadelphia, like these long weird Philadelphia. Think about long names, long roads. Think about and this is something that Alfonso was looking at. I added India addresses in there. Why did I add India addresses? Because India addresses are ridiculously long. Addresses in India are ridiculously long. India and Ireland, both ridiculously long postal addresses. So when it comes to a form like this, you have to really begin accounting for things that, wow, this could be like a crazy long entry. How do I deal with that? Well, you go edge to edge. You don't try to stack things side by side. Okay. So minor tweaks. Look out for the type size. So the type size is a little small in a couple areas, but then give yourself room to breathe, and that may mean that you've got to do like name and card number, and then billing address in like 2 tabs or something to break this up. But I just want to put that out there. And then error messages. Okay, so this seems small just from afar. 9. Okay, so now we're getting into 9, and what's interesting, what I often is 9. What I often see here is like this looks like you might have. Hey, I'm going to go screenshot this, and then I'm going to recreate it. This is where you have to be careful. This is why those design guidelines are so important. When we are looking around the internet finding inspiration, a lot of times we'll find something that is poorly designed, and then we will go replicate that. So I want to encourage you to look around, mobile apps, internet, soak it all in, and then ask yourself, okay, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to consult these guidelines. And if I'm consulting these guidelines, if I consult these guidelines and I go to things like the design interface anatomy exercise tools, uh, the things that I'm seeing, do they align with what I know are best practices? And if they don't, I definitely shouldn't draw upon them as inspiration. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you're working through. This is really good work. Yes, there are a few tweaks that I would make, but the ambition is what I'm mostly focused on, Eddie. The level of ambition that you've shown to take something that, you know, I'm not bagging on other students at all for just taking the form fields that were selected and like going boop 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 boop, like here's the 5 fields and I'm off to the next thing. You've taken and stretched it further. All right. That doesn't mean that this is perfect. That just means that you're really trying to exercise and use the opportunity. Like somebody gave you a prompt and you said, hey, I want to stretch my wings here. This is the type of thing I'm looking for. When you come to this exercise, I'm looking to see how far you are willing to take it. I'm not necessarily looking to see, oh, yeah, or is this how I line up for form fields? Sure, and that's correct, but more importantly is this is an opportunity for you to do an exercise and kind of stretch and explore. Are you taking advantage of it? Because as I'll say, I've said this before, I see a lot of exercises out there where they go, oh yeah, and here's how big a form field should be, and good luck. Like there's no feedback there. So here you're doing what I would hope that you would do. You're taking the opportunity to say, hey, somebody's going to give me feedback on this. I'm going to stretch it. All right, that's really good work though. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's feedback loop. And you might wonder, like, hey, Chris, I've never seen you like really dive in deep on one submission. Did you see how much work Eddie did there? That was great. And that's the type of stuff that like gets me excited to jump in here and see what you've got every morning. Some mornings we're doing CSS work. Some mornings we're doing research work. Some mornings we're just looking at portfolios. Other mornings like today we're doing interface work. That's what we do here at New Pragmatic. We are always looking at student work. We're always leveling up. And if you're interested in design mentorship, there's a couple things you could do. You could hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, turn on the notifications, get notified when we release new videos, when we go live with the live streams. But also, if you're looking for mentorship, listen to what my friends who are already in the program have to say about working with me here at New Pragmatic. All right, folks, I will chat with some of you later today. And for everybody else,